Self-disturbance syndrome. Diagnosis and cure through the alignment principle. Copyright 2025 by Abina Young. All rights reserved. This book or any portion thereof may not be reproduced or used in any manner whatsoever without the express written permission of the publisher except for the use of brief quotations in a book review or scholarly journal. Introduction. Rational Objectivism and the Quest for Self-Realization. Rational Objectivism, RO, is more than just a philosophy. It is a pragmatic, self-directed guide to life founded upon the bedrock of reason and humanity's inherent capacity for self-realization. Our initial work on RO established the fundamental principle governing this system, the imperative that you must treat your body as a valuable object with defined functions and use reason to operate it efficiently, moving beyond luck and unconscious habit. While that argument centered on the rational operation of the physical self, the profound philosophical term self-realization requires a deeper and more precise exploration within the context of RO. This monograph is dedicated to providing that clarity. The central thesis of this work is to unequivocally define self-realization in rational objectivism as the necessary alignment of a person's intrinsic elements with their extrinsic actions. Furthermore, this monograph introduces the concept of self-disturbance syndrome, SDS, a psychological condition that arises from the failure to maintain this essential alignment, and argues that a lack of self-realization is the root cause of many interpersonal and psychological conflicts. By clearly understanding this relationship between inner conviction and outer conduct, the reader can begin the lifelong process of achieving the 3 S's of RO: self-realization, self-mastery, and sobriety. We begin by examining the precise definition of self-realization and its crucial role in achieving a rational and coherent life. Defining self-realization in RO. In rational objectivism, self-realization is a method of living by which a person's intrinsic elements, such as core convictions, internal beliefs, or vox populi, and deep-seated values, are brought into alignment with that person's extrinsic actions. This necessary coalition between inner belief and outer conduct leads to the discovery of one's original self and a profound increase in awareness of one's own individuality. Self-realization is not a singular event that occurs suddenly, it is a lifelong process. To achieve and maintain this state, one must cultivate the RO key virtues: steadfastness, coherence, and consistency. These 3 qualities are the path through which a rational objectivist achieves the ultimate 3 S's of RO: self-realization, self-mastery, and sobriety. Self-disturbance syndrome, SDS, the consequence of misalignment. What happens when the intrinsic elements are incompatible with the extrinsic actions? This state is what we define as self-disturbance syndrome, SDS. SDS is a psychological disorder of thought and emotion that occurs when our intrinsic elements, e.g., deeply held religious beliefs or personal convictions, are not in harmony with our extrinsic actions. Human beings, as a whole, are highly susceptible to self-disturbance syndrome. Symptoms of SDS include, but are not limited to, anxiety, rage, depression, regret, melancholy, alcoholism, fear, guilt, social phobia, drug addiction, and antisocial behaviors. SDS explained. Mr. Orange and Mr. Pink. A useful example of SDS involves 2 individuals. Mr. Orange participates in a successful bank robbery. Afterwards, he suffers from SDS symptoms because his intrinsic religious beliefs, e.g., "Thou shalt not steal," are in direct conflict with his actions of robbing a bank. Mr. Pink, an atheist with a lifelong history of criminal behavior, does not experience SDS. This is because his intrinsic criminal mindset aligns with his extrinsic action of robbing a bank. The dangers of misalignment. Not enough seriousness has been placed on the dangers of failing to harmonize our intrinsic values with our extrinsic actions. SDS, or a fundamental lack of self-realization, is the root cause of many problems that plague our interpersonal relationships and fuel family conflicts. Individuals suffering from SDS not only upset themselves but inevitably tend to upset others as well. While SDS is not a contagious disease in the traditional medical sense, it can easily spread through societal influence, particularly by means of tradition, religion, and other forms of conformity. A person can be born into conditions that induce SDS and can only be cured by achieving self-realization. For example, Peter is born into a devoutly religious family whose doctrine forbids the consumption of meat. Peter loves eating meat. Because of this conflict, Peter intrinsically believes he is a sinner, becomes melancholic, and feels he must be punished. Peter can only be cured of his SDS when he uses reason to realize that he should not base his life on scriptures written many centuries ago if they conflict with his rational, intrinsic values. By resolving this conflict and choosing reason, Peter achieves self-realization. SDS is a disorder of the mind, comparable to any other mental illness that can be serious enough to require psychiatric intervention. An understanding of rational objectivism is a prerequisite for understanding and treating SDS in individuals. RO teaches us that we must only do things that are good for the body and rationally avoid things that are harmful to the body. The cosmological symbol of self-realization. The Chinese dualistic cosmological symbol of yin and yang serves as a perfect representation of what self-realization means in rational objectivism. Observe the symbol. The yin, the dark, negative, or feminine principle, is equal to the yang, the bright, positive, or masculine principle. This perfect equality and interdependence allows the two forces to maintain the harmony of the universe. This cosmological principle is mirrored in mathematical truths, such as Kepler's second law of planetary motion. An imaginary line connecting a planet to the sun will sweep out equal areas in equal times. This means a planet's orbital speed is dynamically balanced with its distance from the sun, which is why seasons recur at fixed times. Self-realization is akin to the Taoist principle: you have too much yin, and very little yang. This quote aptly describes the state of SDS, or misalignment. Self-realization in RO is not merely about harmony, it is fundamentally about achieving and maintaining balance and equality between the intrinsic self and the extrinsic actions. Conclusion: the coherent life. This monograph has established that self-realization within rational objectivism is not a vague aspiration, but a precise, measurable alignment of one's intrinsic convictions with one's extrinsic actions. It is the process of discovering and living from the coherence of the original self. The stakes of this philosophical definition are high. When this coherence is lost, the individual falls prey to self-disturbance syndrome, SDS, a psychological state born of internal contradiction. As we have seen through various examples, the symptoms of SDS, from anxiety and rage to addiction and melancholy, demonstrate that a failure to harmonize the inner and outer self is the root cause of personal conflict and subsequent relational strife. SDS is not merely an individual failing, it is a systemic ailment that spreads through tradition and conformity, demanding cure through rational choice. The elegance of the yin and yang symbol serves as our final reminder: balance and equality are not static conditions but dynamic processes. The maintenance of self-realization demands the steadfastness, coherence, and consistency that characterize the rational objectivist. Ultimately, the philosophy of rational objectivism offers a pragmatic path forward. By treating the body as a valuable object and using reason to operate its functions efficiently, we choose alignment over disturbance. This choice is the beginning of the journey toward achieving the ultimate state of self-mastery and sobriety, which are the natural fruits of a life dedicated to self-realization. The coherent life, founded on reason, is the only rational life. About the author. The foundation of rational objectivism, RO, grew from a profound personal and intellectual transformation. Abandoning a background in Christianity, the author embarked on a dedicated, self-directed study of science, philosophy, and spirituality, including a rigorous 2-year study of Buddhist sutras and classic Greek-Roman works. This extensive research included an in-depth reading of texts such as the Large Sutra on Perfect Wisdom. The philosophy of rational objectivism was developed not just as an academic pursuit, but as a pragmatic system to overcome significant personal obstacles, including drug addiction and the constraints of dogma. Drawing heavily upon studies in psychology, neuroscience, and human anatomy, the author established Ro's core tenets, leading to a period of sustained sobriety since December 27, 2020. The author continues to live and work in Lagos, Nigeria, actively developing the concepts of rational objectivism and advancing the understanding of nature through reason.